Good morning. Welcome to another Wednesday morning on Plus Sports on PlusTvAfrica. It's one of my days to give you good sports news because I know you're hungry for it. We start this morning with some transfer news. Well, actually, some optimistic news on the part of Manchester United as they're more optimistic about next season. But before we go into that, let me welcome on board Victor Godfrey.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
Happy to have you. Thank you for joining us. Bruno Fernandes believes improving Manchester United will be even better this season as the playmaker looks to bring silverware to a club making impressive moves in the transfer market. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sides finished as Premier League runners-up last term and fell to an agonizing penalty shootout defeat to Villarreal in the Europa League final in Poland. United are preparing for a new season in a stronger looking position, having last week completed the £73 million acquisition of long-standing target Jadon Sancho from Borussia Dortmund. Also, Varane is on the way, and reports put the figure at about £42 million or £41 million, depending on who you're listening to. Victor, are Manchester United in a stronger position to challenge the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City for silverware next season, Premier League specifically?
Well, on paper, right? On paper, they look the part. Unfortunately, football is not played on paper, like we all know. Chelsea did the same thing last season. Everybody was like, oh my God, you're going to destroy the entire world. Yes, they won the Champions League, credit to them, but in the Premier League, they didn't perform all that well. So United signing Varane and Sancho and maybe one or two other players, if they choose to do so, is good business in the market. However, we've seen with United in the past where they spend big money on big players and then they only managed to finish in the top four. So I understand the optimism of Bruno Fernandes. I mean, obviously, he's one of the few players at United who really wants to win trophies. He has that winning mentality that we've not seen at United since the era of Sir Alex Ferguson. But the truth of the matter is that I don't think they are ready to win the league just yet. You can't win the league by just making only 2 signings. You need about 3 or 4 good signings in key areas. And there are a few areas in United that are still a bit shaky and dodgy. Like their goalkeeping department, they are attacking like a proper number 9. They don't have that. And a very good defensive midfielder. They don't have a very good defensive midfielder. Fred and McTominay, sorry. They know it for me. Get Ndidi. Get Nigeria. The Nigerian midfielder for me is better than those 2 guys they have there. So it's an exciting time for United, but I don't think they're winning the league anytime soon.
Speaking of defensive midfielders, we've heard reports that they are thinking of bringing Ndidi and have made a £40 million bid. But before we go to that, let's hear from Bruno Fernandes himself.
I think, as always, we have a chance to win whatever we want or wherever we try to win, because I think last season, unluckily for us, we don't get to any trophy. We get to the final of Europa League, but unluckily we don't win. But still without with the transfers or without the transfers, Manchester United will always be a tough opponent who will try to win every competition we are included. As I always said, for me, being at this level, at these clubs who want to win, is because of that. Because I know we have the chance to win everything we are included. After you can win or not, but we have the chance, and we should and we will. It was more than frustration. Was sad, because everyone worked so hard to get that final and to try to win. We do it a good game. I think we should win the game in the normal time. But anyway, Villarreal was a good team. They deserved to win because every time someone wins, they deserve it. Because is no one who wins and they don't deserve it. They do it something good or something well to win the game. So better than us. Anyway, more than frustration, I'm proud of what we have done. Because of course we want to win trophies and we know we have the chance and we have the capacity to win trophies, but I see an improvement on the team, on the mentality of the team, on the quality of the team, and I think the team will improve more this season, and we are growing up better and better day by day. And now this is a new season, a new chance to win something and to do something different.
Well, Victor, as you heard there, he's very optimistic. However, the sting of losing at the Europa Finals seems to still be on his mind. You said that they need a quality number 9. Cavani is still very much a good number 9 in many people's eyes. Is that position really something they need to worry about?
Yes, actually. So here's the thing, right? For I think 2 seasons ago, before the Jadon Sancho transfer saga became headline news, Manchester United were chasing Haaland, the player that almost every striker and every club in the world wants to get, the striker everybody wants to get. Before then, when he was moving from the club to Dortmund, ManU were like, oh, we're going to sign this guy. And of course, he has a bit of a history with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer from their days in Norway when he was at Molde. So they need Cavani is, for me, is a perfect backup striker, like a striker you need if your main striker is a bit injured or maybe needs to rest or you're playing a cup game or something. But they need a proper number 9. And if you look at the history of United winning major league titles, the last time they won the league, they had a solid number 9 in his prime, a guy called Robin van Persie. Before that, they had another guy called Ruud van Nistelrooy. Before that, they had guys called Andy Cole, Dwight York, Teddy Sheringham, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer himself, one of those strikers back then. And United don't have that. My apologies to fans of Anthony Martial. He is not good enough as a pure number 9. He doesn't have that instinct. Doesn't have the movement. He's a skillful player, but he's not good enough for that position. They need even a goalkeeper, in my opinion. I feel David De Gea is past his prime, although he has been a great servant to United. I also feel their new goalkeeper, the English guy, Dean Henderson, for me, he's not up to scratch to be a top-level goalkeeper just yet. So I don't think you should even put him in that position at that point in time. And the defensive midfield area needs work, because if they don't put someone there that's very good, like a Kante-esque kind of player, lots of Pogba and Bruno Fernandes and Sancho and Rashford, all those exciting forward players wouldn't really have that freedom to go forward and do what they want to do. So that's what I think for United.
Assessment of their number 9 position, Manchester United are placing a lot of hope in Mason Greenwood. So maybe they don't want to bring in any serious competition in that position that might limit or hinder his development. But we go now to the Olympics. Gymnast Simone Biles' bid for a record 6 gold medal ended abruptly on Tuesday when she pulled out of a team event. Russia's gymnastic team went on to carry the gold. Simone Biles, the American gymnast who was on track to become the greatest female Olympian of all time at the Tokyo 2020 Games, abruptly pulled out of the women's team event on Tuesday in a surprise move after only a single vault. It was a stunning and disappointing start to the Olympics for the US women, who had expected to dominate the final as they had not been beaten in a major team competition since 2011. But the entire event was turned on its head in an instant when Biles, the world and Olympic all-round champion, completely mistimed her opening vault to earn a low score of 13.766. It was a setback the US would never recover from, as Russia claimed the title for the first time since the unified team at the 1992 Barcelona Games, while the US winners in 2012 and 2016 settled for silver and Britain the bronze. She has explained her withdrawal from the women's team final, denying suggestion it was a medical scare and saying it was a matter of protecting her mental health. The 30-time Olympic and World Championship medalists withdrew, having only completed in the first rotation as the Russian Olympic Committee went on to win the gold in her absence. Let's go to the track up.
Simone Biles, the American gymnast who was on track to become the greatest female Olympian of all time at the Tokyo 2020 Games, abruptly pulled out of the women's team event on Tuesday in a surprise move after only a single vault. USA Gymnastics initially said that Biles had withdrawn due to a, quote, medical issue without providing further details, and said her participation in the rest of the games was uncertain. But Biles later told reporters that she wasn't physically injured, just that she wasn't happy with her performance and that she needs to focus on her mental health. Russia went on to take the gold instead. The U.S. took silver and Great Britain took bronze. Biles is 24 years old and would have needed 10 gold medals to become the greatest female Olympian ever.
Victor, mental health seems to be a major issue for many of these young women athletes these days. Is there a buildup of a deficiency in the system that is causing this backlog of cases?
Well, first of all, mental health issues is mental health issue actually is a very, very serious and, I would say subjective to an extent matter, because it depends on what you discover, what you consider mental stress. It's up to the individual. But the case of Simone Biles, I mean, everybody was looking forward. I was personally looking forward to her winning that gold. I was excited. I didn't even watch the competition because I was expecting to see the news, record-breaking gold of all time. You know how the headlines go. Then all of a sudden, I saw when she pulled out. I thought she was injured. But, they were covering up the real story until eventually we discovered it was due to mental health issues for her. Now, why I said it was subjective is because in the past, you've had athletes at the top level who perform even under pressure from every side. Sometimes it might even be bad performance, and they go to the tournament and then they perform well and win the gold. We've seen that happen before. Athletes turn the table around. But in her own case, she said she wasn't happy with her performance and she felt like she was going to let her team down if she continued. So I wouldn't say there's a deficiency in the system, because now more than ever, there's no room to allow this happening. I can assure you, if I said this 30 years ago or 40 years ago, say, she's not serious, what's wrong with you, please, come on. But everybody's giving us support and showing love and showing understanding. So I think it's not down to the individuals we have these days. I mean, Naomi Osaka said the same thing a few months ago. Now she has joined, that club of saying, okay, listen, I can't perform until I'm 110% upstairs. So as much as we are, obviously we're going to show our support, but at the same time, like I said, it's subjective. There are two ways. Like, another athlete will have been dying to perform at this event, and even if she literally had no legs, she would still jump on that, floor and do her thing. Well, but again, like I said, it's up onto the individual.
Victor,
support. Yeah.
Her story is particularly unique. As an athlete, she has come out and spoken openly about her sexual harassment and assault at the hands of her former Olympics gymnastic coach. Even till now, those kinds of demons can still be playing a part in her mental reasoning. So should we be worried going forward, given that she still has her own individual gymnastic vote to complete?
Well, the thing about it is that because, for us personally, people like us speaking in the media, we seldom ever have any experience at that level. Like, I don't know what it is like to perform for your country at the Olympic Games. I haven't done that before. I most likely will never do that in my life. So the pressure is really, really high on her. Should we be worried for her? I would say, if she continues to perform with her mental state not being 100%, then yes, we should worry. But the fact that she has come out boldly, because this is actually a very bold statement, you can't imagine, the amount of pressure she must have been under, sponsorship from, deals, business side, the national pride, many things that are letting our own team down. There are many things that must be playing in her head, but the fact that she came out is a massive statement. Now, moving forward, if she's not 100%, then we should worry about that. But I don't know what the Team USA plans to do with her. I think they need to put like you mentioned, put measures in place to ensure, because the thing about this sport is that even Germany, the female team, the female gymnast team from Germany decided to wear full costumes or full unitard to cover themselves because they felt that their sport is being sexualized. And if you mention about abuse to the female, child or female athlete, that also is another massive issue that is also needs to be tackled as well. So it is very, very dicey. It's a very, very tricky subject matter. However, if she's not 100%, she can step down. Who knows? It might be a time for another team. I know the team competition is over, but another athlete can still excel, break out of the shadow of Simone, and do well for herself at the Olympics.
Well, we certainly hope she feels better and she's able to continue down the path of breaking the records that she's clearly talented enough to break. Tokyo residents.
Still very young. She has a few more years ahead of her, so you can still do it.
Tokyo residents had plenty of sympathy for Naomi Osaka on Tuesday, July 27th, after she was knocked out of the Olympic tennis tournament. Osaka, who lit the Olympic cauldron on Friday, July 23rd, to open the games delayed by a year due to the pandemic, looked out of sorts and never settled into a rhythm as she lost 6-1, 6-4 in the third round to Czech Markéta Vondrousova. The Tokyo Games marked Osaka's first tournament since she pulled out of the French Open in May. The 23-year-old world number 2, who has cited pressure being the cause of her poor performance and exit, remained positive, saying she was happy with her experience at the Tokyo Games despite her stunning loss.
Japan's great hope for tennis gold was dashed on Tuesday when world number 2 Naomi Osaka lost in the third round of the Tokyo Games. Days after lighting the Olympic cauldron, Japan's Osaka suffered a 6-1, 6-4 loss to Czech player Markéta Vondrousova. Osaka never settled into a rhythm on the courts. She made 18 unforced errors throughout the match, 3 times more errors than Vondrousova. It was Osaka's first tournament since pulling out of the French Open in May, when she announced she had been suffering from depression for almost 3 years. Osaka had said she would skip post-match press conferences to raise awareness of players' mental well-being, but after her Olympic defeat, she told reporters, quote, "I definitely feel like there was a lot of pressure this time around," adding, "I think it's maybe because I haven't played in an Olympics before, and for the first one to be here was a bit much." Some Tokyo residents sympathized with Osaka's mental health challenges.
I honestly think the anxiety is still impacting her a bit. Her defeat was a bit fast, so I think she wasn't in a perfect state.
Others expressed disappointment, saying they wanted to see her soar at the Olympics. Japan's Kei Nishikori, who achieved a 3-set victory in men's singles after Osaka's loss, said her elimination was sad, adding, quote, "I knew she had a lot of pressure. This is her first time Olympics, and I know it's not easy."
Victor, Naomi Osaka's situation and even the Simone Biles situation, mental health being such a major topic right now in athletics. It makes me remember, it calls to mind an interview I saw of 14-year-old Serena Williams being interviewed by a much older man who questioned why she was so confident in her abilities. Her father forcefully interjected and tried to make sure that the reporter understood that his questions could only serve the purpose of damaging her morale and damaging her self-confidence. In this day and age, we don't have the kind of competent management that can prevent young athletes like Simone Biles and Osaka from being intimidated and pressured and developing the kind of mental issues that seem to be pervading sports these days.
Well, the reality of the matter is that it's actually very sad on the path of Naomi Osaka, because again, she's, like you mentioned, Serena Williams, or the Williams sisters, she's actually the biggest superstar since that era of, tennis stars we've had. And she took time off, like the news report said, in May, which was very, very brave. It was a very bold statement. It was met with mixed reception. People felt like she was being a diva, while others were showing love and support. And the truth of the matter is that everybody on earth, every single human adult, wherever you come from, whatever the amount you have in your pocket, we all go through phases in our life whereby we suffer one form of depression or the other. So it shouldn't be something we should joke about. Sometimes people might think it's trivial, like, what is wrong with, please let her go and play, Joe. It doesn't work that way. So, I think someone said in the report as well, someone in Japan said that perhaps the anxiety and maybe the pressure even of playing for Japan at a major tournament, because everybody expected her to represent USA, but she decided to go for Team Japan. And then, of course, she said she wasn't going to play at the Open, and then she's here. So that pressure might get to her. And besides, everybody expected her to win gold. She's world number 2 at the Olympics. Everybody said, okay, you have to take the gold. So I understand where she's coming from. I understand maybe that pressure got to her and she was not just 100%. It is really important. And it's time for not just only team sports or individual sports, sports psychologists need to now step up their game and help athletes across the board. We've seen many athletes take their life. Sometimes in football, like the former German goalkeeper committed suicide at one time. I've forgotten his name. He used to play for Werder Bremen back then. He committed suicide, and this is due to mental health issues. So it is really, really important that we take it very seriously. It's very sad for Japan and Naomi Osaka, but I can tell you this, though. Other countries who are contesting in that particular tournament will be looking forward to their own, athletes winning the gold medal. So it is bittersweet on both sides, because I can assure you that the lady from Czech will be looking forward to getting gold, and the people in Czech Republic will be celebrating her gold medal if she does get to win it at the end of the day. So, but again, on the flip, sorry for Naomi. Hopefully she can come back stronger. She's number 2. She's a very talented tennis player, and she has already had a moment. She was the one that lit up the cauldron at the Olympic Games. That is a massive moment that only a few, talk about. So she already had Olympic moments. She
Victor,
can, move on from there.
You've spoken about the need for sports therapists and psychologists to take a more active role in the development and mental welfare of these athletes. But we live in a more sensationalized media environment, atmosphere these days. The more clickbaity story, the more papers and news outlets sell out. And for that reason, the media always seems to look for the most hyper impressive, sensationalized stories. The pressure is mounted on from the media, even if audience members, even if spectators are more reserved in their judgment. Is this trend an inevitability that was always building?
The truth is that, yes, that is the case. It's actually going to continue to the end of humanity if there will be that point. The reality of the matter, like you mentioned, even before we got this clickbait era, right? Before now, back in the 20s, they said extra, extra, read all about it, extra, extra. When you had newspapers as the only form of information, this was always the case. People in the press and the media always tried to exaggerate stories and made it seem larger than what it really was. And that also changes the view of the public, changes public opinion. It can sway either left or right. Now, this has happened a lot, even in sports, in other sports like football and boxing, whereby they can glorify an athlete or a footballer to the highest level. And once that person makes one small mistake, just misses a penalty or gets knocked out in a boxing fight, he is vilified as the worst possible person in the world. It happened to David Beckham in the 98 World Cup. It happened to Raheem Sterling even before the Euros. People were just against the young man, and so on and so forth. There are many examples. Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali. These guys have all suffered from the media targeting them.
Okay.
But the good thing about it now, like I mentioned, is that what can happen is that we need professionals to help these athletes shut out the noise, because it comes with the territory. If you're a superstar, they will talk about you. So you have to now narrow your mind and remove all that whole negativity and perform to your best ability. Yes, we still need our professionals in those fields to step up.
All right. Thank you. Tokyo Olympics organizers today, July 28th, have reported 16 new games-related COVID-19 cases, bringing the disclosed total to 169. As the Games entered its 6th day, there were no new cases of infection within the Olympics Athletes Village. The 16 were mostly Japan residents related to the Games, according to the daily data released at 11 a.m. local time. The pandemic continued to hang over the Tokyo Olympics, particularly after the host city announced a record number of new cases on Tuesday, July 27th. Though Japan Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga shut down any possibility of cancelling the Olympics, organizers are likely to remain on high alert for any breach of its bubble, where athletes and others involved in the Games avoid any public contact. Tokyo is already under its 4th state of emergency, set to run until after the Olympics. But unlike the stricter steps in many countries, the measures focus mainly on asking residents that serve alcohol to close and others to shut down by 8 p.m. Meanwhile, the IOC has hailed its success at containing COVID-19 at the Olympics, with 155 people connected to the Olympics testing positive for the disease since the start of July, and an overall positivity rate of around 0.02%. Only a small number of athletes have tested positive, with 2 more confirmed cases announced on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the IOC has said that it will investigate any cases of athletes deciding to boycott competitions involving Israeli athletes. Algerian judoka Fethi Nurin was sent home early in the games for refusing to fight Toha Botbol. Nurin said he couldn't face an Israeli due to the problems between Israel and Palestine.
So I think I'm right in saying the infection rate is 0.02%, which I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that. And then I would just simply, and I'll pass over to Massa, I would just simply repeat that this is the most tested and possibly even the most vaccinated, but the most tested community almost certainly anywhere in the world. But I would just urge you to look at the 0.02% figure and compare that with probably anywhere else. I think it's really worth looking not just at the measures, the vaccination measures and the distancing measures, 0.02%. I know from my experience, not here, but I know from my experience, I think a lot of countries would be incredibly happy with that figure. And obviously, as I said yesterday, don't take my word for what we're doing. The World Health Organization Director General has made it clear that they've advised us every step of the way, but they've also said at our session that we are doing all the right things, everything we can do. You can't reduce risk to zero, but you can certainly get very close to that.
The IOC is looking at every case that's brought to us. We will investigate anything that is raised to us, even from third parties. We will work with the National Olympic Committees concerned, the international federations, etc., to respond to those on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, the IOC has been very clear that non-discrimination, autonomy, all of these principles that are in the Olympic Charter are things that we will not flinch from, and we will adopt a strict position on all of those. With respect to the chef de mission of the refugee Olympic team, Ms. Tegla Lerupe, she's still in Doha, and we will be discussing the next steps with her in the next couple of days. But she's doing well, very well, and it's a shame that she's not here with us, but we'll be discussing that in the next couple of days.
Well, Victor, it seems we will always have cases, reports coming out of the Olympics. But I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for your candor and insight. I am your host, Mikhail Tinubu. It's been a pleasure bringing you sports news on Plus Sports on PlusTvAfrica. I hope you have all enjoyed this morning and continue to enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, life is never boring with some sports.